Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 116, week 15 of the NFL season. Right upon us, man. Both of us 9-4 last week in the pick'ems. Still got the 7-game lead on you heading into week 15. Week 15, man. Kicking it off, Rams, Niners in San Fran. Who you got?
I'm going with the Rams here, man. And this is a team that we've been higher on throughout this season. But, watching Stafford, the way they were able to put up points against the Bills this past Sunday, this offense is clicking, man. And Puka looking like arguably one of the top receivers in the league. You want to argue him or Jamar for number one right now. Justin Jefferson's obviously up there. But the performance he's been putting on with Stafford, Kupp is always reliant as well in that system. And then you got Kyron Williams on the ground. I think it's a very balanced passing attack, a very balanced offense. McVay's cooking up, and this is a big game for both of these teams. The Niners with a big win last week. I think they still feel like, they're in contention, could possibly try to win that division, still make the playoffs. So this could kind of be a loser leaves town match, a really big matchup on primetime, but I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Rams last week putting up points. Stafford, I think in his last 4 games, 10 TDs, 0 picks. He's been cooking things up. You mentioned Kyron Williams, Puka. Sadly, I think Jamar probably is the best in the league right now. But
yeah,
Niners, on the other hand, Purdy's still looking off-season future. Niners want to extend Purdy. Deebo Samuel had some comments over there on Twitter saying he's not getting enough touches. In reality, he has the second most touches, and the community notes on Twitter actually told him that to fact check him. So yeah, the Niners, man, they've been so far a disappointing season. They're not done just yet. They could bounce back. If they could get back to the Niners we know in the last 2-3 years, start clicking on the same page, they could be a dangerous team. I know they still don't have Ayuk and whatnot. McCaffrey out, obviously, but still a very solid roster, well-coached team. But this Rams team, McVay, Stafford's looking healthy. This offense, the weapons around him are healthy. I'm taking them all day on the road.
And this is what the Rams do, bro. They always get hot down the stretch, have a rough start. Weird middle of the season. It's last month or two right before the playoffs, they have they're on fire, and it's they're the team nobody wants to play in the postseason. This is just what the Rams do. They always play their best football at the end of the season when it matters the most.
Commanders Saints, man. NFC matchup in New Orleans, your pick here.
Yeah, I like the Commanders here off of a bye. I mean, the Saints, Derek Carr apparently in concussion protocol and with a fractured left hand. So reports saying we might not see him the rest of the season, or, coach coming out saying he has a chance to play this week. Not too sure what he'd be playing for, but Saints team in a dogfight with the Giants last week. That's all I needed to see. I like the Commanders here coming off of a bye. Jaden Daniels continuing his offensive rookie of the year campaign. Need it for fantasy playoffs and for my future bets, but yeah, I like the Commanders here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Fractured hand, concussion protocol. Derek Carr, what is he playing for? Maybe for a future team that would sign him at this point. He's still with the Saints, but I don't know New Orleans' situation this offseason, what they want to do in the draft via free agency, whatever it is. I know they probably don't have too many options as is with the cap hit. But Derek Carr, the experiment in New Orleans, hasn't really worked out so far. So Derek Carr could be playing for his future at this point. But, yeah, the Commanders coming off a bye. Seemed like 2 weeks ago they were able to get things together, start clicking really well, or 3 weeks ago too as well. They look like that team that got off to that red-hot start where we were talking NFC East champions here early on in the season. Still in playoff contention. I like them here against a subpar Saints team with maybe a Taysom Hill showing or a Spencer Rattler game.
Well, it's definitely not Taysom Hill because he's out for the season.
Oh, yeah,
he tore his ACL 2 weeks ago. I think Derek Carr has a clause in his contract or something this offseason. If he doesn't pass a physical, he's guaranteed X amount of money. So maybe the Saints are kind of yeah, we're going to not playing him and make sure he passes that physical so we don't have to pay Derek Carr guaranteed money, or maybe coaches out saying like, yeah, he's good, trying to convince everyone that he is going to be able to at the end of the year. But
you might just have to go home and like punch a wall or something at this point. Just get it done.
Yeah, interesting offseason coming up here for the Saints.
Chiefs Browns, who you got in Cleveland?
Not much here to say about this matchup. I'll let you go ahead and talk about your Browns and what you think is going on there. But yeah, the Chiefs continue to just find ways to win. It doesn't matter how crazy, how outlandish, how unthinkable it happens, they just win. So, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, they just seem to get it done. Give me the Chiefs here.
Yeah, man. I'm picking the Chiefs as well. I really want to kind of pick the Browns here. I mean, it would be a game that they go ahead and win somehow, some type of way. I feel like it's one of those games, man. They beat the Chiefs, sort of help out the NFL a little bit and don't help themselves out, because at this point they're playing for draft position, officially eliminated from playoff contention last week after the loss. And yeah, I mean, not much to say other than the Jerry Jeudy signing trades looking a lot better this season in the offseason, and the Browns got to look forward to next year, because not much to look forward to now. Kadarius Toney did get cut after his Week 14 antics on the field, so short-lived stint there. Dustin Hopkins will be looking for a off-season job, that's for sure. Or give me the Chiefs, man. Bengals, Titans in Nashville, your pick.
Give me the Bengals. It kind of seems like this entire year, no matter how many games they lost, the Bengals were always that team where it's like, this offense is so good. Can they turn it around? Do they have a chance for the playoffs? And, funny enough, there is a path for them to still make the playoffs. Now, a lot of stuff has to go their way, but nonetheless, this is like, how to get on the right foot. You're playing the Titans. Will Levis going down with injury. Looks like he'll be out. Not sure who will be their starting quarterback. Is it Mason Rudolph is there? Yeah, so, I mean, when you're the Bengals and have arguably the worst defense in the league going up against Cooper Rush and Mason Rudolph in back-to-back weeks, so definitely be a good confidence boost going down the stretch for you there. And offensively, I mean, what is there to say? Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, it's unstoppable. Give me the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I said the Titans were looking kind of good last week. They were at home, I believe, in their matchup, and then they just went and embarrassed themselves against Mac Jones. So, yeah, this Bengals offense we know is dangerous. It took a mistake by the Cowboys down the stretch late in the fourth quarter that did throw the game for the Dallas Cowboys in prime time. Yeah, connection's elite. Give me the Bengals. This Titans team is pretty bad. Dolphins, Texans in Houston. Your pick here.
This is a close game. Last couple of weeks, I'm like, if it's a close game, I think I would go with the opposite team of you, but I'm kind of just throwing in the white flag at this point. You got me beat. I don't know if I can actually catch back up in terms of the rankings and, the record here for the pick. So I'm going to just go with who I think will win. I've been higher on the Dolphins, this Dolphins team. Tua's been playing really good since coming back from that concussion. A little shaky against the Jets to start, but once they got the ball in overtime, went down the field, scored a touchdown. Jonnu Smith is seeming to be, like his favorite target, especially there in overtime. I know where he had 0 fantasy points in regulation and then ended with 13, which is actually kind of crazy. But that passing game is coming alive. Once again, Jalen Waddle getting involved, Tyreek Hill, and then A-Chain just scores a touchdown every single week. And I think this defense is also underrated too. Pretty good against the run. I like their defensive line. They get after it. And when you got an offense like Miami who can, go out and score points a bunch of times, playing with the lead, makes it easier for the defense. I think this will be a really good game. Texans coming off of a bye. CJ Stroud, I'm not too sure if he's been banged up or injured, but when you're, the most sacked quarterback and his O-line has not been helping him at all. He's been under pressure all year. I'm sure a bye week definitely helped him feel a little healthy. Him and Nico Collins it'll be nice to see that connection get going again. Nico coming off of the injury, another week for him, to get more healthy. That passing game is always going to be good. And then once again, we always talk about Joe Mixon has to get going for this team to win. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the Dolphins try to stop Joe Mixon. I think they can do that, limit the big play from Nico Collins and CJ Stroud. They got a chance to get in it. But if it's one of those games where it's a shootout, I just like Miami and their weapons more than the Texans right now. So I'm going to take the Dolphins here on the road.
Yeah, I'm just taking the Dolphins purely based off hope at this point. I do like your analysis. I think that offense really struggled, you mentioned, early on, especially during the first 4 quarters, really. Very spotty. We're able to score at some points, but can never get a consistent offense rolling in that entire game. And then Jonnu Smith, overtime, it's like Tua just said, you know what, bro, he's been my guy these last 5-6 weeks since I've been healthy. And Jonnu Smith's really been a nice addition to this offense. Really hasn't had a tight end. I think since like maybe Mike Gesicki, a true tight end that could actually catch the football, that's not out there just a pass blocker. No knock to like Noah Gray or anything like that. But Jonnu Smith is just a better pure pass catcher when it comes to the tight end position. Once again, Mike McDaniel and his red zone offense continues to baffle me at some points as well. He was able to dial up that nice play that got Tyreek open for that touchdown, and then Waddle, similar set, similar play, was able to get that 2-point conversion to force it to overtime. But it worries me. You mentioned that defense; they've been sneaky good against that run. Other than Jalen Ramsey getting broken on that one Garrett Wilson out and up route, defense looked very solid as well. So. Give me the Dolphins, this Texans team. You mentioned the bye and everything like that, but they just haven't lived up to that hype, that Super Bowl hype they have had this year. This might be a turning point coming off a late season bye. So,
and me and you, we called that out, bro, in the beginning. That's one thing we got. Slump, that's one thing we got right. Like we said, the Texans. I think we said they'd still be contenders, but more in the middle of the pack, and I think that's exactly kind of where they are. I know, like you mentioned, they had a lot of hype coming into the season, but it's just different, with the expectations when teams have entire year of film on a quarterback like CJ Stroud. Teams have seen him, they kind of understand things, and it's different, when you have the target on your back and you're not chasing the target. So,
and the talent on the entire roster is not like the greatest either. It's a solid roster, a lot of young players.
Some big splash pickups and stuff on the offseason. That helped, but I'm with you right there. It's just tougher, and you get that first place schedule. Like a lot of factors go into it. But I think the Texans they'll be fine down the stretch here next couple of seasons.
Yeah, Ravens Giants, at MetLife in Jersey. Who you got?
I kind of see this similar to, your Browns Chiefs take, where like the Giants just have the ability to do the funniest thing ever. And it would be the most Giants thing ever. It's like they're set up to pick, get their choice of the quarterback, number 1 pick. And then, of course, down the stretch, what do? They have no business beating the Ravens. They figure out a way to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And, they finally beat a great team, but it's when they don't need a win at all. So, I think the Ravens are like 2 touchdowns favorites. I would definitely not bet this game. This is like, it has trap game written all over it. Although the Ravens are coming off of a bye. Like, the Ravens are going to win this game. They should win it handily. I'm just saying I don't like the 14.5 or whatever the spread is at.
Drew Lock, man. He's going to go out there, do his thing, and then try to get a spot in the league. That would be about it. But, I'm going to take the Ravens here. I'm not going to comment on this one too much. If it happens, it happens, and I'm not going to be mad at it either. Just move the Browns up, and hopefully they lose. Jets-Jags in Jacksonville. Real barn burner here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier this year. I'm not picking the Jets for the rest of the season just because, earlier on I was a believer. I was bought into the hype, and, they just burned me. So, yeah, this team should 100% be able to beat the Jags. But, hey, listen, we were coming into the season saying this team is a Super Bowl contender. I thought they'd be, fighting for the division, fighting for a wild card spot. And they have, 3 wins on the year? So, Yeah, give me the Jags. Shout out Mac Jones, BTJ, man.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the Jets just because I watched them. They look better than the Jaguars last week. Just not hard to do that, but the Jags won a football game as well, so it could happen again this week. Who knows? I'm gonna take the Jets. Cowboys, Panthers in Carolina, man. I called it last week. They're looking good, man, and came down to the wire against your Eagles. But you're picking this one.
Yeah, this is if we would have started the season and you would have told someone like, yeah, the Panthers would be favorites over the Cowboys in what was it, week 15?
Are they favorites in the
Panthers are, I think, 1.5-point favorites over Dallas here at home. I'm picking the Carolina Panthers, man. Bryce Young has got this offense humming. And, you still make a couple mistakes here and there, up and down. Still a young quarterback, but he's playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more command, and he's rejuvenized Adam Thielen's career, man. Looks like he's lined up next to Stephon Diggs again, and Case Keenum is throwing him the rock. Defensively, there's not much to be desired there, but offensively, I feel like Bryce Young and this Panthers offense right now, especially with Chuba Hubbard. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks goes down and re-tears his ACL again. A tough loss. But you just extended Chuba Hubbard. He's been your workhorse this entire season. I think they continue to lean on him. And then Bryce Young has shown that he's able to make a bunch of big-time throws. He's spreading the ball out. He's making throws down the field. Yeah, Bryce Young's looking like, why he was drafted number 1 overall. And against this Cowboys team, where you got, a banged-up CeeDee Lamb. It looks like he gets injured every single time he gets tackled, landing on that shoulder. Cooper Rush, every time it was, third and longer than 4 yards, you just knew it was not going to be a good play. And then defensively, they just lost arguably, their most impactful player over there in Dallas, Overshawn, out for the season with his knee injury. Obviously, Michael was there, but, we talked about it here a little on this podcast. He was always the one player to make, come up with big splash plays. So that definitely hurt their defense. So, yeah, give me the favored Panthers here at home over the Dallas Cowboys, which is a wild statement to say here in the 2024.
Yeah, man. Talked about it last week. I like this Panthers team, and, I think they did. They had Deontay Johnson at one point. I think they had legit talent, weapons around Bryce Young. Chuba Hubbard in his, breakout season at running back getting paid this year as well, having a phenomenal season, especially for a guy that everyone thought was going to lose his job when Jonathan Brooks came back. And obviously the, horrible injury happened to him again after just coming back and bouncing back from that injury. So, horrible for him, but the Panthers, they played some good football last week, outside of a drop pass. It could be sitting here with a different story with the Panthers playing spoiler football, and I think they're one of the best spoil football teams at this point in the season if they play anyone good remaining on their schedule. If not, man, I do think they beat this Cowboys team. I know the Cowboys were, just kind of one play away from that game, but they hung around in that game because we know that Bengals defense isn't the greatest. So, Cooper Rush looked like a semi-capable quarterback outside those 3rd and 4s you mentioned, and he missed CeeDee Lamb on that last drive wide open, like a 12-yard in route, just looked the other way. So I think this Panthers team, Adam Thielen, you mentioned, Leggett, he comes down with that. Bryce Young put it on a very solid spot, obviously diving catch, tough. But there's no one around him to make that play. I like this Panthers team, man. They're a sneaky team, and I think, Bryce Young, after that benching, got it together, and I think the Panthers, move in the right direction in the years to come, which is pretty bright after what happened to them early on in the season, what everybody thought Bryce Young would be moved on for. Would you trade him for a 3rd-round pick, and teams calling the Panthers looking to get him? I bet the Panthers are pretty glad they hung on to Bryce Young at this point, man. Bucks, Chargers in LA at SoFi, your pick.
I'm going to go with the Chargers here, and, me being a Justin Herbert truther, this Chargers team has really relied on defense a lot these last couple weeks. Tough loss there to Kansas City. But Justin Herbert got banged up, took a couple big hits against the Chiefs this last game, but a bunch of injuries on offense. J.K. Dobbins, he's on IR. Lat McConkey, He missed the last game, banged up knee and shoulder, so he's dealing with a lot of stuff there. Will Disley just went down. They're back there starting tight end, so not a lot of weapons there for Justin Herbert to utilize. I mean, Quentin Johnson finally had a game where he was catching the ball, kind of like, he started off this season, was pretty solid, went through a little slump. So we'll see if he's back on track. But this Bucs team, man, defensively, they just feel like you can kind of just do whatever you want against them. I mean, they let Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders hang a couple points on them and made that an interesting game there for a second. But Baker Mayfield in this offense, they're starting to get going. Bucky Irving, he's banged up, got injured. I think he re-aggravated that back or whatever in the second quarter, I believe, against the Raiders. So you'll see a lot more Rashad White, not as an explosive runner as Bucky, but someone we know who's established in this league. And then Mike Evans continues to get healthy on the outside. So I think we can maybe see a little something there for the passing game, but it'll be a lot more difficult against this Chargers defense. And I think Justin Herbert, even though he doesn't have a lot of weapons against this Bucs defense, I don't think he'll have to do too much. Just make a couple big-time throws here or there and then just rely on that run game and kind of just hold on to a victory here against the Bucs at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this Bucs team, I do like them in this NFC South division. I just think the Chargers are a better, well-rounded team than the Bucs. Coming down, obviously, last drive of the game, once again, for the Chargers against the Chiefs. Just couldn't get it done. Couldn't get the stop against Mahomes when you needed one. And, game-winning field goal doinking in. UCF legend Matt Wright. It wasn't Matt Wright, but he was kicking last night. Matt Wright was the kicker for the Chiefs. UCF legend got Cade York messed up. Another legend, that one being a Browns legend. But give me the Chargers. I just like this team defensively, offensively. Just think they're a better unit, well coached. And the Bucs, I like them. They're frisky. They're competitive. Obviously, Baker Mayfield led, but I just don't think it's enough to beat this Chargers team. Basically on the neutral site even, but I'll take the Chargers. Colts, Broncos in Denver. Who you got?
Yeah, this just has a Broncos win written all over it. And this Broncos defense, the way they've been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if, we see one of those vintage Anthony Richardson must-be benched games here going up against this defense in this altitude just because, I know they gave up a bunch of yards and a bunch of points to Cleveland a couple weeks ago, but coming off of a bye, get another week to get healthy, all those guys back. And Bo Nix is playing really good football, man. I mean, I didn't think he'd be this good coming out of the gate. I thought he'd be a solid NFL starter, but he's up there with Jaden Daniels right now in terms of Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's looking like a top 15, top 20 starting quarterback right now. So, I mean, you add that to pretty much any offense in the NFL, it's going to work. On top of, you got Sean Payton there, one of the better offensive minds. He has his scheme and the way he coaches proven to work, proven to win championships here in the NFL. He's had success. And then Cortland Sutton, he's come along really well out there on the outside. And they're starting to get the run game going a little bit as well. So I think it really, really helps when you're the Broncos. You're playing this super, super stout defense. I think that that Browns game was a little bit of a blimp on their resume. But even when they needed big plays and big moments, they were able to get takeaways. They were able to get after Jameis. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for Anthony Richardson. We know how good he is. We know how, the talent and what his ceiling could be. But right now his floor against this Broncos defense at home, I think they get after him. And Bo Nix in that offense, they get a couple, possessions and plus position, and they capitalize and put up some points. So, yeah, this Broncos team is really good. I think they may end up making the playoffs wild card spot. It'll be interesting to see how they compete down the stretch because, I mean, they have the recipe for success right now. A really good defense, quarterback that's not turning the ball over and playing good offense, and a winning head coach. So I think this Broncos team can be dangerous down the stretch. I like them here against the Colts.
Yeah, man. You mentioned the altitude. Do you think Anthony Richardson subs himself out of this game here? Yeah.
Maybe, or he might throw like an 80-yard pass.
Could it be the first 90-yard air pass in NFL history?
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, if there's anyone that could do it, he'd be on the short list.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Broncos too. You mentioned that defense outside of Levi Wallace, pretty solid game from all.
Yeah, hopefully Riley Moss is back. Shout out to the white corners.
Yeah, literally anybody but Levi Wallace, which is kind of surprising because he played in Pittsburgh for a while. Very solid corner, but yeah, he's certainly didn't play too well against the Browns 2 weeks ago, and a real good game between the two teams, a shootout. You mentioned Bo Nix in this offense. Seemed like when they needed to get a touchdown, Bo Nix was able to go down the field with a big play most of the time, take the top off the defense, which, you know, he was known for the short and the deep routes. He had the intermediate game going too, and you mentioned that run game. Not Javonte Williams, but I forget the other running back in Denver, but
I forgot his name.
Yeah, he's sort of taking that workhorse role from Javonte at this point. He just looked better 2 weeks ago compared to Javonte, who's battled all those injuries early on in his career. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead rock with the Broncos. I think the Colts will do okay. AR would
McLaughlin.
be fine.
Julian McLaughlin.
Yeah. Yeah, give me the Broncos. Pats, Cardinals in Arizona, your pick.
Well, you know, I mentioned the Seahawks versus Cardinals game last week. You ended up beating me in the kind of, you know, battle for the NFC West. Cardinals were kind of my team I was rocking with, and you were higher on the Seahawks. I just didn't see it. So you had me beat there. I was, you know, contemplating picking the Patriots here, coming off of a bye. Drake May, I like what he's able to do. Don't really like anything else on that offense, but Drake May's been really good, been able to scramble, use his legs, and he's made enough plays to, you know, at least have the Patriots here hang around. But just defensively and pretty much everything outside of Drake May on this team, not the biggest fan of. So I'm going to just pick my Cardinals, kind of like, you know, loser bracket, consolation prize. I think they'll be able to beat the Patriots here at home, but unfortunately I don't think we'll be seeing the Cardinals making a postseason push this season. The Seahawks, I think, got it at least over the Cardinals, because the Rams, you never know, they could be sneaky, knock them off. But in terms of winning that division, making a playoff push, I think the Cardinals will be looking for next season.
Yeah, man. I mean, I really like the Cardinals coming in this season, but throughout the season, I thought the Seahawks were a better team. As for the Patriots, only news coming out of there is Gerard Mayo might be coaching for his job. And then KJ Osborne got his request granted for release. So he's in waivers. Team going to be looking at some wide receiver depth. They could get one in KJ Osborne. Yeah, man, not much to say, man. The Cardinals should handle business. Could the Pats win? Sure. The way this Cardinals team has looked is very, very inconsistent from literally every level of football and every facet possible. Give me the Cardinals with that being said. Bills-Lions. Could it be game of the week here? Possible Super Bowl matchup between these two fan bases? I know you're going to say no, but Bills-Lions, man, in Detroit, your pick.
Well, I'm not going to say no. We'll get into that this next game, but I like the Lions here, man. I'm not saying I've been fading the Bills, but I just think over the past couple of weeks they've had some favorable matchups, so to speak. This will be a real test, and we kind of saw what a competent offense is able to do when you go, you know, when you're not playing in Buffalo and there isn't 30 inches of snow in the stadium. Like, that's like real home field advantage, especially with Josh Allen, who's arguably the most physically gifted quarterback in the league. Like, he's able to play in those elements, but on an even playing field, you saw last game against the Rams, Stafford had literally zero issues against that defense. They were able to run the ball, Stafford throwing the ball all over the field. Like, they were pretty much able to do whatever they wanted against this Bills defense. And you got to give credit to Josh Allen. I mean, you know, a bunch of jokes going around, everyone laughing, saying like he's the only quarterback or only person that, you know, MVP stock goes up after a loss. And I understand, you know, he pretty much willed them back into that game. I think he was responsible for like 6 total TDs or something insane like that. You know, just winning fantasy leagues, you know, cashing people's playoffs. So, yeah, I think this Bills team is fun. I think as long as they have Josh Allen under center, I think they have a fighter's shot. But against some of those top-notch teams and top-notch offenses like the Detroit Lions. I mean, you could say they're the best team in football right now, and I wouldn't say you're wrong. I think you have an argument for a couple other teams, maybe even the Bills, but right now the Lions are just playing on an extremely different level. And, reports saying that hopefully Aiden Hutchinson will be back for the NFC Championship game if they make it there. So they got some juice. They're playing for him. They want to see their guy back on the field. And right now, Jared Goff, ever since, his 5 interception game, has played a lot cleaner football. That running attack and that O-line, I mean, both of those running backs are good for 60 yards and a touchdown a game. And then they got all the weapons they need on the outside. Tim Patrick finally getting involved. Amon-Ra, you know what he's about. And then Jameson Williams, speed threat, kind of stretch the defense, make everyone stay at bay. I mean, I just don't know, like, how you stop this offense. And then defensively, yeah, they're super banged up. I do think, they aren't as good as they were in the beginning of the year. But like I said before, when you're playing with an offense like this, they're going to have the lead. Like, 80% of the time, they're going to put up points. So all you got to do if you're the Lions defense, just get 1 or 2 stops, just win the possession game, win the turnover battle, and this Lions offense is going to do the rest. At home, like, I don't see this Lions team losing. Like, as good as Josh Allen is, as good as this Bills offense can be, I just think the Lions are a tier above them right now. Give me Detroit.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bills offense. I just think the Lions offense is either equally, if not, a step ahead of that Bills offense. But then you break down.
I think it's way above.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Josh Allen's capability can lift them, to compete with the Lions offense in a football game. I just think that Bills defense is a tier lower than that Lions defense, even banged up at that point. I just don't think that Bills defense is going to be able to get enough stops. And I do think that Lions defense is, even with all the injuries and whatnot, is still a bit better than the Bills. So even if Josh Allen, goes crazy, you're still relying on that Bills defense to try to stop this Lions offense. And I don't like the chances and the odds.
Good luck, bro.
Exactly. Don't like the chances or odds of that happening. So, I mean, you broke it down. We talk about that offense, the weapons, what they're able to do. You didn't even mention, Sam Laporta.
Yeah, he's starting to get going too.
He's
down
starting
the
to
stretch,
heat up, man.
He
Safety
catches
blanket,
a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah. Red zone target. I mean, you already have, Montgomery in there, goal line touches. Now you had Laporta in there, receiving wise. Lions at home all day. Steelers, Eagles, man, in Philly at the Link. I already know who you're picking, but what's your breakdown?
Well, speaking of a team that, gets all of their offensive weapons involved and it looks unstoppable, that wouldn't be the Eagles, coming off of a interesting win against the Carolina Panthers last week. I'm going to just come out here and say this. Last week was the first time I came in and bought into this Eagles team, off of the big win against the Ravens, feeling like, everything's clicking, the best defense in the league. And I think the defense still played a really good game. And then that entire game just felt like the entire 2023 season, like, just in a hole where, like, you're playing teams that you're just obviously better than, but you're just struggling and you scratch and claw and just get lucky and find a way to win this game. Like, if Xavier Legette catches that ball, the way that offense has been playing, the way that passing game was looking, like, I'm not too sure if anyone had confidence that they were going to be able to go down and score. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. This is kind of the first game we've seen like this since, the bye week. Maybe you want to say the Browns game. But I think this Eagles defense, this Eagles team will be up for the challenge. On the Steelers side of the ball, George Pickens will be out, and I think that's honestly, like, one of the main reasons I'm here picking the Eagles. This Steelers offense was fully healthy, and Russ had, Pickens, that deep threat that he could rely on, where he's going to be good for 1 or 2 big throws, big plays in the game. I don't care how good your defense is. I think that would have been a game changer, especially the way this Eagles offense was playing. Just didn't know if we'd be able to, hang around with that Steelers passing attack. But with no George Pickens, passing attack didn't look as good. They were still able to run the ball last week, but I just think this Eagles defense is going to be what saves this team down the stretch. I mean, I don't think they've allowed a team to score 20 points on them defensively since the bye week. I think the Jags had 20-plus points, but they got a defensive touchdown. So in terms of scoring on this defense, it's just something you don't do. I think they're playing really good at all three levels. Chauncey came up with a big play. Defensive line, Jalen Carter just continues to wreak havoc, and then the linebacker play is good as well. So I think defensively, this team is going to have to carry. And then, listen, I'm not going to get into all the speculation, all the big news, the drama with AJ and Jalen Hurts and him calling him out post game. Like, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not too sure what's going on there.
You see AJ's new profile pic?
The Joker, Brandon Graham coming out and making those comments.
It's a veteran, too, at that. Guy's been around the league for a long time.
Yeah, I will say the last time A.J. Brown, came out and there was a, questioning for him not getting the ball or whatever. He got the ball, and we saw him go on that. I think, that stretch last year where he had, over 125 yards and a touchdown in X amount of games. Something crazy. He went on a crazy run. So, Kellen Moore just came out and said they're going to make it a focal point to get him the ball. Not too sure why it took him this long and all this drama for that to be a focal point, but I think this Eagles team will be all right. Saquon Barkley just continues. All this stuff is going on about the passing game, but it's Saquon Barkley just casually broke LaShawn McCoy's franchise rushing record with 4 games left to go. Possibly looking to break, the season rush record. I think it's 2,100 or something, Eric Dickerson's record. I believe he has to average 120 yards over these last 4 games to break it. Something that is doable for Saquon Barkley and especially this offensive line. So I think a big loss here is there's no Dallas Goedert right now because he's that target that Jalen Hurts likes to go to over the middle, especially in those RPO games that kind of keeps this offense moving. He's not there. Kind of hard for Jalen Hurts to get in rhythm and get those other guys going on the outside. But good to see Smitty come back. Him get in the end zone after missing the last couple of games. Talent's there. Everything's there. These guys just got to get on the same page, and we've seen them do it before. It'll be a good test here against the Steelers defense. We know they're capable of T.J. Watt, arguably one of the best defensive players in the league. So it'll be a test for the offensive line, but I'm confident in Lane Johnson or Mailata, depending on whichever side he wants to line up on. I think this will be a good game, a really good competitive game, but I think this Eagles defense makes 1 or 2 big plays down the stretch, especially with no George Pickens. I think you can get a little aggressive on the outside with some of those receivers. Maybe we see one of the rookies get their first career interceptions, but yeah, definitely some question marks going into the postseason or down the stretch here for this Eagles passing game. And listen, man, it's the NFL, it's the passing league. You got to throw the ball to win games. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here against the Steelers. It'll be a good challenge, and depending on which way it goes, I think you'll have a good feel for how this Eagles team will perform down the stretch. But give me the Birds, man.
Yeah. Quickly, Saquon 377 yards away from 2,000 yards right now with 4 games left. So could join that 2K club. Very elite talent in there already. OJ, CJ 2K, Henry, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Jamal Lewis, AP, and then obviously Eric Dickerson, who had 8 more yards at.
Derrick Henry never had a 2,000-yard season?
2020. He had
2000. Oh, you said him? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right.
2027. And then obviously AP 2012, 2097, Eric Dickerson, 2,105 yards in 1984.
I think that's the record.
For the single season record. So you could definitely break 2K just under, I think it's 80 yards a game, basically 80-something yards a game for Saquon to break that 2K mark.
And even though he didn't score last game, he still had 124 on the ground. So he's still running all over the place.
Yeah. Real quick before you said the Steelers are better with George Pickens out there. I think the Steelers are worse because you're granted just free plays, maybe a tantrum thrown. Hail Marys where he's just fighting Greg Newsome downfield. And before, I even comment on the game, he said he didn't know who Greg Newsome was. He's personally DM'd Greg Newsome at one point of his life. I wasn't sure about the date or whatnot, but for a crash out like him, he's got to make sure those receipts aren't at least there for for the taking. So I'm not trying to defend Greg Newsome in any type of way because he is not very good. He's not done a good job at all this year, and he's going on IR. So maybe it was injury. Doesn't matter. I'm taking the Eagles, man. The Steelers, I just can't bet on them, man. I personally can't. This Eagles team, the rush game, it was the Steelers' run game last week, and Jameis Winston mistakes, classic. Gunslinger, classic. Jameis. I mean, it's. And then Dustin Hopkins. I mean, the Browns have a viable kicker. I think they win that football game as well. There's a lot of missed kicks, a lot of momentum, a lot of field position changes because of those kicks, and Steelers were able to win it. So I'm gonna take the Eagles.
Well, speaking of kicks, I will say Jake Elliott, man, Jake the Make, is becoming somewhat of a concern for this Eagles team. He hasn't made a field goal over 50 yards this season, and coming into it, he was like 72, 73% during his career with kicks over 50, and he just hasn't hit one over 50 so far this season. So
join the club, buddy.
Yeah, listen, man, for a guy that used to be
automatic,
man, that's Jake the Make. That's what we called him, but it's not looking good right now. But hopefully he gets the confidence back.
Dustin saved the Browns season last year, and plenty of times where he made huge kicks, and he can't even go out there and hit a 30-yarder. So at least your kicker can make a 30-yarder.
He's missed a couple of those extra points this season too. So kicking game not looking too good.
Shout out my boy Jason Sanders in Miami. He's making them. I'm taking the Eagles. Pack Seahawks in Seattle. I was tempted. I'm gonna let you go first, but
I like the Packers here, man, and I think it has to do with the resurgence of this run game for Green Bay and Joshua Jacobs. Like, when you're able to run the ball, it just makes the game so much easier offensively, especially for the quarterbacks. And I know they got Jordan Love back there, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Seems like he can make pretty much any throw from anywhere, but it's just a lot easier when it's like, wow, all I got to do is turn around and hand the ball off, and we get 4 or 5 yards to carry, a big run here from Josh Jacobs, and then the play action. And it just makes everything go together a lot smooth. And then Packers secondary, Xavier McKinney, I think he still leads the league in interceptions. They take the ball away back there, and I think they have a solid front. So, well-rounded team, gave the Lions a run for their money last week, literally came down to the last-second field goal. So, the Packers are a team. I think you got to look at them as one of the top teams in the league right now, one of the teams that are kind of in that Super Bowl contention, I would say, right now. And yeah, the Seahawks, I'll give them your credit. I'll give you your credit. I think they are going to be a competitive team, but I just don't think they're on the same upper echelon level as some of these other teams here that I think that could, after the end of the season, we're here in February doing our podcast. It's like, wow, the Packers just won the Super Bowl. I don't think we'd be super shocked, but if you told me the Seahawks won it, I'd be like, all right, who got injured and what happened? Like, that'd be insane. So I think right now the Packers, they're playing really good ball. I just think they're a step ahead, and they're kind of like, this Texans team on steroids when you look at what they're doing offensively. It's like, both got new running backs that are coming in, and their offense runs through them. So, yeah, give me the Packers here against Seattle at home. Or on the road, but I like the Packers. And we've seen some, vintage matchups with these teams over the last decade or so.
Oh, definitely have. At the end of the day, I am going to take the Packers. I do think they're a little bit more well-rounded of a team. I wanted, Kenneth Walker's been really cold of late. Last two matchups, 3.1 and 2.6 yards a carry, 3.9, 3.3.
Yeah, now he's injured.
Yeah, he hasn't averaged over 4 yards a carry since October 20th. Zach Charbonnet in the lineup. I think the Seahawks are kind of similar in ways. Obviously Geno can air the ball out. Same thing with Jordan Love, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. But they want to run that offense through their running back. I don't think Zach Charbonnet's the guy to kind of do so. I think Kenneth Walker's able to, carry an offense in the running game. But with Josh Jacobs, I think they have the upper edge at the running back position. You're going to rely on Geno Smith. It's sort of going to be like what we saw from Jordan Love earlier in the year, where he had, 3 interception games, gunslinger, Brett Favre-esque type football. I think that's what the Seahawks are kind of in for now. I think the Packers are just a well-rounded team. Defense is shaky at times. You mentioned Xavier McKinney. They definitely have their moments, their ups and downs, and so does that offense. But I think late in the season, this is their time to lock in. You mentioned that game last week, very close to winning that one against, an NFC powerhouse in Detroit on prime time, in front of the whole world. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a close one. But I see the Pack pulling this one off. You mentioned the history, man. Shout out Matt Hasselbeck, man. We want the ball. We're going to score against Brett Favre and the Packers in the playoffs. So, yeah, that certainly do it, man. And it was kind of like,
yeah, that's like way back. I was thinking of like the Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers shootout, like
the muff or the fumble kick.
Yeah, was that the divisional or was that the championship game?
That always just sits in my head, man. That Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander era for the Seahawks and the throwback unis. Tough unis they had, but I'm a rock with the Pack. Yeah, that's certainly a time too, man. What was his name? Bostic. Brandon Bostic, was it? Or no? Am I tripping?
I can't remember.
Tight end that dropped the football.
It might have been.
Yeah, I'm a rock with the Pack, man. I'm gonna look up the tight end. Next game up, Bears Vikings in Minnesota. Your pick.
Yeah, not much to say here, man. The stat that's been trending or going around for the Bears here last Sunday was they had more punts than yards in the first half against the 49ers. So pretty much all you need to say there for the Bears. And then on the Vikings side, I mean, I think the Vikings deserve some respect, man. The Vikings started off hot and the Saints did as well. And those are the two teams were like, is it real? Is it not? Wasn't buying the Saints at all. And, that's kind of came to fruition. But I think this Vikings team is kind of proving it time and time again that they deserve to be taken seriously. And Sam Darnold back there at quarterback, I mean, he's getting the ball to the playmakers, and that's really all you need to do here. When you got Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson playing the way they are, and this defense, they're going to be super aggressive. They're going to create, turnovers. They'll make a big play, splash play here or there. And then offensively, when they're clicking, I mean, Sam Darnold's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So, yeah, against the Bears here, I know when they played a few weeks ago, the Bears were able to put up some points, but just the way this Vikings team is playing, I mean, they got to be having all the confidence in the world right now with that big win against Kirk Cousins, making big splash plays on defense and offense. Jordan Addison, 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson with the viral clip that's been, going all over the internet with him leaving the DB out of his, I don't know what that DB, what was that corner doing, bro? Like, he just, no idea.
Panic button on the steroids.
Justin Jefferson just running down the field, and it looked like the corner was biting on a triple move when Justin Jefferson was just open. Yeah, definitely panicking there, but
he was covered too. He was worried about that, the sideline.
Shit look like cover none, fam. Nigga was wide open. But yeah, the Vikings, they're one of the better teams. I think they're poised here to go for a deep run in the playoffs. And what do you think the Vikings do at quarterback? Because they have J.J. McCarthy there, they just drafted. I mean, if you want to mention Daniel Jones, you can, but I don't think he'll be a factor. And you look at the way Sam Darnold's been playing on his 1-year deal. Like, what do you think they do there at the quarterback position?
I think you go try to re-sign Sam Darnold. J.J. McCarthy, one of the younger quarterbacks in that draft class. I think he was a true either 21 or 22-year-old coming into the league, coming off that injury. I think you give him time to recover. Maybe another year behind Sam Darnold would not be a bad thing with the way Sam Darnold has played. We see rushing quarterbacks so far has not turned out, to work. Look at Bryce Young. Him sitting that benching this year turned out to look right for him. Sometimes you don't want to throw these quarterbacks into the fire, and Tom Brady even talked about it, them dumbing down the game and just getting those young guys out there. Saw a clip of that. So I wouldn't be mad. J.J. McCarthy, who played in a hardball system that was a run-heavy first offense, if you give him a little bit more time, get him some reps, because this whole year, sure, he might be learning the system, learning the playbook, learning the offense, but he's not getting game reps or practice reps even on the sideline, getting, timing down with the receivers, stuff like that. I think it would be beneficial if you bring Sam Darnold back with the way he's played. I don't see why you really wouldn't. If Sam Darnold wants to take a 1-year deal again, which he probably won't, because how good of a year. But if you give him a 2-year deal and Sam Darnold wants to take it, I would do it if I'm the Vikings.
Yeah, I think I would try to do a similar deal to what Geno got done over there with Seattle the last couple. Was that last season? He signed that extension to where I think it was like a 3-year deal, but you get the team option on the last end just because you don't know what's gonna happen if Sam Darnold does fall off or if you see some flashes and you really like what you see from JJ, then you can move on. But yeah, I think you gotta at least franchise tag him and give JJ at least one more year to get fully healthy. But
I forgot you franchise tag him. Yeah, that's probably the move. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm the Vikings, I'm at this point. I'm doing whatever I can to keep Sam Darnold in Minnesota for the near future. Maybe not long term, and down the stretch. I know Sam Darnold might want to eventually get that bag. I know there's going to be some teams out there throwing some money his way,
some money at quarterback,
especially the way this quarterback draft looking, where it's like you got Shador and you got Cam, but after that, it's like, I mean, we'll see here in the playoffs. There's not really any big names after that, but yeah. So you look at teams like the Titans, like the Raiders, maybe the Giants. They even figure out a way to win a game down the stretch here. Mm-hmm. Those teams that won't have the number 1, the number 2 pick, maybe they look for someone like Sam Darnold and give him some money. But yeah, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm staying in Minnesota, or I'm looking for another team that has that same West Coast Shanahan offense that I've been running the past 2 years that has made him flourish so far. So yeah, Vikings should beat the Bears, man. Bears not looking good.
Yeah, nothing too much to say, man. I'm also gonna take the Vikings. Once again, dads need to stay off Twitter. Romeo Doomsday.
It's not wrong, but yeah.
Just need to lay off Twitter, man. It's like, I'm sure they had an AAU dads in football. Like, it's just like
giving you Odell flashbacks, huh, fam?
Yeah, the Odell flashbacks. Wow, it's even worse. But you got him. Elijah Moore did it this year. His
forgot
dad.
all about that. Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it. What do you get? Mom's too. What was it? Lamar's mom's is his agent, but.
Well, that seemed to have worked because Lamar is playing at an MVP level the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe the mom should come out and start talking instead of the dads.
I think it's like a odd case out there, bro. I think it's an anomaly with Lamar Jackson. I'll take the Vikings, man. 4 yards offense in the first half. So, the Bears, they're in shambles. Falcons, Raiders. We're getting real. The primetime game Thursday night, good one. Monday night, Sunday night, not so good. Falcons, Raiders in Vegas. Your pick.
Well, I believe both of these games are on Monday night. The Bears and Vikings.
2 Monday night games?
Yeah, so I think that Seahawks game is
Seahawks pack Sunday night.
Regardless.
Oh, by the way, Brandon Bostic was the name. Forgot all about that.
Yeah, regardless, this Falcons Raiders game, not the best, primetime matchup here. Kirk Cousins is just like not allowed to throw touchdowns anymore, I guess. Offensively, not too sure what they got going on there. Bijan Robinson's still really good. He's been able to get going on the ground, but yeah, through the air, just not on the same page. Kirk Cousins definitely not, looking like he did early on this year where he threw for 500 yards against the Bucs, and maybe that should tell you, where the Bucs defense is at right now. Looking at how Kirk is playing down there in Atlanta, and then defensively they kind of just give up points. So yeah, Raiders. Desmond Ridder might be the starting quarterback. It looked like Aiden O'Connell was going to be out for the year. Now apparently it's like he's day-to-day, might be able to play this week. I guess he just bruised his knee or something. It looked like pretty bad. So he might be there regardless. I don't really care who's I don't know who wins. This is a terrible game. Give me the Falcons. Who cares?
Yeah, I type in Raiders Q and it says Raiders QB this week. I mean, clearly a trending search all season long. Yeah, Kirk O'Chains, ATL Kirk. That's sort of what happened to that. Early on in the season, you mentioned the 500 yards in primetime against the Bucs. Honestly, I think these teams are very similar. I think it's just a little bit worse, man. Maybe like instead of a C tier, they're like a C2 tier in the Raiders, and the Falcons are just a C tier. D tier or F tier, whatever you want to put them at. Give me the Falcons. Don't think there's too much to talk about in this one. Monday night should be the night for any plans you want to do, because you really don't need to watch any of these games. There's no 4:05 games. I also just noticed on Sunday. It's all 4:25 in the late window. I think it's like 4:25 games. So getting that this week, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Falcons. Yeah, it's going to wrap up Week 15 pick'ems. You got any more comments, takes?
Nah, pretty much it. I will say, since the last time we did the college football playoff officially been revealed, not too sure how you feel about that. And then in-season tournament, man. Who you picking to win the in-season NBA tournament, man?
I know the Mavs are in it, right? Mavs.
They're
Thunder,
playing the Bucks right now, I think.
Mavs, Thunder, Bucks, Magic.
Yeah, the Magic are playing the Bucks right now. Yeah, excuse me, not
and
the
then
Mavs.
Thunder, Mavs, I think, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and rock with Thunder.
I think
man.
the Hawks are the Hawks in it too. I think so.
I could care less about that.
NBA in-season tournament. Yeah, ask the Lakers how that went last season.
Yeah, looked real well. And speaking of the Lakers, man, they're in shambles too.
Yeah, LeBron's on the move, man.
Yeah, was he
Apparently
gonna
it's
take
a package deal.
Bronny with him?
Bronny,
Is it? Yeah, I'm not shocked, but of course, the Heat get a win, and they talk about trading Jimmy Butler already. So it's
listen, man.
I can't catch a break.
Hero keeps playing at this level. You don't really need Jimmy, man.
Yeah, okay. Let's say that in come playoff time, because usually it's never there. Yeah, college football playoff. I mean, Oregon obviously number 1 seed in the nation. They get the 1 bye. And this sort of looks like how my college football playoff dynasty looked like in NCAA, where I'd be like the number 3 seed, lose to BYU in the Big 12 championship, and then miss out of the playoffs or whatnot. But Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, Arizona State 4, which is, I'm going to touch on them in a second, 5, Texas 6, Penn State 7, Notre Dame 8, Ohio State 9, Tennessee 10, Indiana 11, SMU, and 12, Clemson. Yeah, I'm really not too mad at this. No, there's a lot going on about Bama this, Bama that, missing the playoff. Miami, too. I mean, Miami had a lot of breaks this season in terms of who they played and how some of their games went down. Calls at the end of the game. They got that favorable touchdown to win that one game. I mean, obviously, those top 4 teams get a bye. Boise State being led by Alshon Jeanty, being a number 3 seed from a Boise State, sort of just middle of the pack Division I school. I think that's, crazy working at Arizona State. I mean, a school that's never been known for football, a sub 500 team, punching the first round bye. Crazy. Obviously, everyone's talking about this Ohio State Tennessee matchup on paper. 2 teams that could do a lot of damage. What are you looking forward to this first week of games?
Well, obviously, I like the 12-team playoff bracket. As a fan, from an entertainment standpoint, as a returned former retired gambler, I mean, like, what more could you ask for? I mean, a bunch of games, some really good matchups. So I think it'll be really good. But in terms of like just the way the bracket and seating is, number one, I think the first thing they have to change, and I think they will, is you have to reseed these matchups. Like, if I'm Oregon and I'm the 1 seed, I wouldn't want my first game to be arguably, the best team out of the first 4 matchups. Like Tennessee and Ohio State, I think everyone can, kind of tell that's going to be the best matchup. And whoever wins that game, it's like, yeah, they're going to be battle tested. They're going to be playing, arguably like the better opponent. Like, And then you look at Texas where, they get Clemson who barely sneaks in. You could argue no team from the ACC deserves to be in the top 12 playoff matchup, but you got to give credit to the conferences and stuff. And then they beat Clemson at home, and then you go on the road. You just mentioned Arizona State coming into the season. I believe this team was picked to be last in their conference.
In that Big 12.
Yeah, and last in the Big 12. Now, you got to give them some credit.
3-win team, man. That's what they were predicted, I think.
Down the stretch, they played some really good football, but, I mean, they've played nowhere near competition on the level of Texas. So, Texas, I mean, you beat Clemson at home, you go neutral site, handle business with Arizona State, and then you're in the Final Four, you're one game away from the championship. Like, that's insane to me, to where you look at Oregon, like, yeah, it is one game, but you're playing arguably, Tennessee and Ohio State. If you're not going off rankings, that's arguably top 6, top 5 teams when it's all said and done, not looking at the rankings. So, yeah, you got to reseed. If I'm Oregon, like, the 1 seed should definitely be playing, the winner of the lower seed. So I think they definitely got to fix the reseeding there. And then I don't know about you or how you feel, but I understand conference championships are important, but, like, you mentioned it. Like, teams like Boise State and Arizona State, I feel like you shouldn't just have automatic buys just because
I'm letting that rock, man.
Just because you win
I'm letting it rock.
Conference that is nowhere near competitive as you look at the Big Ten. And listen, I'm not trying to sit here and sound like an SEC truther, but, like, the better football is in the SEC. The better football is in the Big Ten, depending on who you play. But you look at strength of schedule, obviously you can do what Oregon, what Dan Lanning came out and said is, like, if you just win the games, you don't have to deal with any of this. That's very true. But I definitely think you have to weigh in strength of schedule. I think, conference champions, maybe they just get an automatic bid into the playoffs. But I know, conference executives and everyone, all the higher ups, this is where it gets kind of political. Like, we don't want to do that. We want to be guaranteed to buy this and that. A lot goes into it, but I think in terms of if you want, and you could argue the 12 best teams aren't in the college playoff right now. That's another argument for another day. Regardless, it's going to be weird seeing Arizona State and Boise State get first-round byes where you got teams like, Texas, Penn State play Oregon really, really close. Like, would you say they're more deserving? Maybe, but, I mean, this is the first time we got this layout. So it'll really be interesting to see how it goes. But, I mean, listen, man, it's more football, more high-level competition. I can't really be too much of a stickler for what they got going on here.
Yeah, I mean, all Ohio State had to do was just beat Michigan. And they couldn't do that. So I'm fine with it, man. They had to beat Michigan, didn't beat Michigan. And now you're sitting here like, basically they sold that game as horrible. Ryan Day shouldn't be having a job if it wasn't, for his team being in a playoff. Don't think he should ever be back as Ohio State head coach. Nonetheless, did see reports Georgia does have the bye. Carson Beck getting that elbow looked at, the UCL injury, possible Tommy John, Brock Purdy-esque injury, same one he had similarly. Yeah, I mean, for Texas too, they had a backup quarterback in the game. Quinn Ewers throws a pick and they get the ball right back with second life, and all they had to do was, score a touchdown and get a stop against the backup quarterback. And Carson Beck comes in the game, hands the ball off with one arm, holding it like as close to his side as possible. It looked like he couldn't even move it. You knew the run was coming. It's sort of like, run commit up the middle. If they want to run like a bootleg and he does a left-handed shovel pass, I'm living with it. But they couldn't stop the run. Knew what he was in there to do. You just got to win football games. It might be a cop-out pick at this point, but I'm going with Oregon, man. My boy Dylan Gabriel, that's who I'm rocking with. D. Gabes, UCF legend. Go Knights and charge on.
Yeah, I think I would have to pick Oregon too, just because they look clear and above the better team. But I think Ohio State, if they can figure out what they got going on there and they get those weapons involved on the perimeter, like, I think I don't think there's a defense that can stop Ohio State in terms of they're throwing the ball on the outside. You look at Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, and Carnell Tate, even a really good number 3 option there. It's just, can Will Howard, do they trust him enough to get them the ball? So that'll be interesting. And then I know Texas lost ugly to Georgia last week and, lost them twice. And they don't really have the most impressive schedule. A good win over Texas A&M a couple weeks ago, but if Texas gets everything right, especially with this, path to the playoff, they don't have the bye, which, is a 2-week bye pretty much because they don't play this week and then next week is the first round game. So Texas gets to keep a little momentum going. They'll have some nice wins. And then if they can get, to play Oregon or whoever wins on the other side of the bracket, then they're 1 game away from the championship. I think, they're a sneaky team. Maybe Quinn Ewers gets things going right. But to me, what I'm most looking forward to is I think we'll see a lot of players kind of play themselves into, maybe first round, second round. We'll see a lot of players play themselves in big moments on the big stage into becoming, real draft prospects. And, the Georgia versus Ohio State game, we were out watching the game and like C.J. Stroud had that crazy performance. And I was telling you, I'm like, yo, C.J. Stroud just made himself like a top pick, like top 5, top 2 pick. And, he went number 2 overall. And when we see guys perform on big stages, obviously that gets hype, that builds the train. So it'll be interesting to see which player kind of takes advantage of the moment. You mentioned your boy Dylan Gabriel. He pretty much no draft hype going into this year. If, he puts on a clinic in that Oregon team and he puts up some big numbers, maybe we see a team take a shot on him. You look at guys like Drew Aller over there in Penn State. Depending on, how he plays, we could see that go up. So I think it'll be interesting. Cam Scatterbo, the running back for Arizona State, I know he's getting a lot of buzz. If he's able to, run over a Texas defense and put up some big numbers, maybe we see him sneak in. So I think it'll be interesting to see, which players step up and kind of generate some draft buzz for themselves, especially going on to this offseason here and with the draft season pretty much right around the corner. The playoffs are a couple weeks away, so it'll be fun to see who kind of steps up in those big moments.
Yeah, man. Real quick, you touched on Will Howard. I know Ohio State's rolling in their grave right now because Kyle McCord this season threw for 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 picks. He was Ohio State's quarterback last year. He threw for 3,100 last year, and the weapons on the outside probably better than he has at City. Not probably. I mean, this is
100% better. I mean,
first
you could
round
argue
talent. Yeah,
the weapons on the outside are better than any team in the college
nation.
football.
It's a wide receiver you for the past 5 years, arguably. The talent they've put on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, between Garrett Wilson, JSN, guys like that. Marvin Harrison. Who else? A ton of guys you definitely put up there. I know I'm forgetting some names, but Kyle McCord being one of the leading passers in the NCAA this year in terms of yards. It's got to be upsetting that Ohio State fans have to watch, Howard at quarterback. So they're rolling in their grave, man. You got any other comments?
No, pretty much it, man. A lot of football coming up in these next couple weeks, man. It'll be fun.
And I told you, man, it's forever horns downs, bro. Don't know why you bet on Texas to win.
Yes.
It doesn't matter which horns, forever down.
Especially Carson Beck going out, couldn't stop him. We need Arch, man. Put in Arch.
I don't think it would have mattered, but Go episode 116, man. Go pod on TikTok. Go on everything else. Until next week, we'll be back with another episode. Peace.